Hi guys, it's been a minute since I've done a video. I'm going to send two out here in the next couple weeks. It is budget season. There's a few directions we could go, and I would like public input on the directions that we do take. I'm going to explain where our budget is spent right now at a 1,000 foot level instead of a 30,000 foot level. Tell you what things we can do, what projects we pay for with those with that money. What other bills are paid with that money, and then what we're thinking that we might want to do or not do, or what the future holds, and do we hold off on some of these things. But that's for the budget video. That's going to be coming up. I'm also going to compare us to other municipalities and how those comparisons work and stuff like that, so that people can have an understanding of both what we're up against and what options we have out there. This video is going to be another boring one if anyone doesn't want any DRI updates. This isn't an update on the DRI as a whole. It's an update on a lot of the questions that came out of the newspaper article for the $1 million grant to demolish the village office. So I don't have a lot of notes on this. I've thought this through for almost 2 years now, looked at every single avenue that I could possibly figure out for a building that's darn near condemnable as far as its safety and efficiency for what we're doing. I'll tell you about those options that we've played out and quoted out and all those things, and why this option that we've chosen to pursue makes fiscal sense for the taxpayers. If anyone's got other ideas, more than open to it. This one isn't final until probably the middle of summer. It has to be selected by the state as something that we even do. So I'm actually going to go through the Facebook comments on when the article was shared in the Waterloo Community Facebook page. A lot of the questions that came up there, a lot of stuff has been shared before, but I think there's still just some confusion on how this whole thing works. Quick backstory for the last time on the DRI. The DRI is not really like a $10 million blank check for the village to spend it in the ways that it sees fit. And what a lot of people would like to see is sort of just more public realm improvements. The state sees the DRI as an economic revitalization tool, meaning we can give this developer or this building owner 3/4 of the plan of what they want to do. They invest their own money, and that kickstarts things. That said, the village office project is a project that we sort of thought of at the last minute when a company was on their way out, not able to find something to do here since we won the DRI. This is a $14 million project where they're only asking for like 3.75 or something like that. So the state will look very kindly on that we'll have $10 million of private money poured into Waterloo by a company that will now then be invested in the prosperity and the progress of Waterloo. So that's what we expect that the state will see kindly on this. Now, why did we apply for the $1 million for demolition? We went out, we talked to uh, people near us that are willing to, they want to see the village of Waterloo do well too. So they said we can do the demolition for this price, and the landfill said we can take all the debris for this price and stuff like that. We brought that to the developers who would actually be doing this whole project, and they have their own reasons for why they've quoted it at the price they did. I'm not a construction guy. I don't know all of them, but very likely, I don't know that we'll need the whole $1 million, but that's what the request was. It is also likely that this project isn't a strong candidate for that particular grant, so we still will have to think of something come May when the DRI is announced and when the Restore New York is announced. Did this project get both of those grants or none or one of them? So first question here on the Facebook page, where is the new village hall going to be? So the answer is the same place. So when we found out or when I found out that this building, problems with this building have been kicked down the can or kicked the can down the road for a long time, I decided enough is enough. I doubt that I'm going to be here for another term. I could just sit there and let this continue to rot and not do anything, but that's silly. Let's figure it out now. Prices are coming down a little bit, still significantly more than they were pre-COVID, but let's figure out what we can do. So we spent the last 2 years saying, okay, what about a public safety campus over by the ambulance? Let's get that property annexed. Let's get the fire over there. Let's get the police over there, ambulance over there. It'd be a nice, good staging ground for any natural disasters or things that have to happen for all of the first responders. And then we could move the village office over there if we wanted to. That price tag, and I was going to try to raise all of that money from the biggest players around. Think the Bruno Box, the Deep Dairies, the Frasers, the Del Lagos, the Sesslers, the Loves, the landfill, all those guys. See if we could get millions of dollars, put their name on stuff, and see if we could get it paid for. That price tag came in at nearly 6 times more than what I thought it was. The fact of the matter is that $1 million just does not go as far as you thought it was. It was probably $3 million in site prep and utilities alone. That the other thing is when you go and try to do something like that, the village is the customer to hold this thing, and things usually cost 33% more when the village does it versus someone private, and it raises it because of prevailing wage and all those sorts of things, and all the other little red tape that we got to go through as a public entity. Um, so the other thing is, so obviously the problem becomes the village administration, the secretaries up front or the clerks and the village administrator and even some offices in the boardroom can happen in a storefront for all that matters. The problem really comes with what is required by the state for our police accreditation. That's everything from the Sally Port to bolted down benches to cages for evidence and all that sort of stuff. So we've looked at non-functioning gas stations to empty lots to tearing down this building and rebuilding it ourselves just as a village and police station. And we're not really finding places that are empty that are not brownfields, meaning there's a lot of problems with contamination that the state would then come in and put us on the hook for and stuff like that. And tearing down our village office and putting our own back up would be about $6 million. Doable, but everyone needs to understand that $1 million is about $100,000 in bond payments a year. That's a 2% tax levy increase right there, right off the bat. So that is why. Where is the village hall going to be? It's going to be there, and the police station would still be there. I think they would actually swap spaces as you're looking at it from Main Street, but we would take up the whole first 2 floors, and by doing so, the developer, this building is now his. He now sees that there's lease available to renters that he does not see the the money from anymore. So our lease would be back of the napkin math, be about $100,000 a year, which we would try to do at a no tax increase, being uh, that we would. I cannot hold a future mayor to this because the whole general fund math is tough. We would try to use the sales tax sharing that the county does to keep this as cost flat as possible. If we did a $6 million building, it'd be $600,000 a year, and we'd have to figure out where we're going to raise those taxes from. So that's the first question. Aren't most of the uppers in downtown empty anyways? Plenty of good apartments there. I can see the police going back in there. Insurance company. All right. So the insurance company would still stay there. They actually have their own deed on their piece of that. Part of the demolition and everything would be to rebuild the shared wall in there. And that was also submitted as a DRI project, and I love it. I love the drawings. I love the plans. I hope Molly Headley over there wins her portion of it and get that done, and then the new building would go on and still be completely adjacent to that. The idea for the design there would be that it would fit in with all the other 3-story brick buildings in downtown and sort of be when you're coming from the west, bang, you've hit our building, you're in downtown now, everything looks the same. The half empty uppers. So 357 West Main, the uppers in the shop center, stuff like that. Some of those are rented, some of those are not. Part of the problem is the sheer amount of which ones are finished and which ones aren't. Um, there was a lot of waiting for the DRI, see what's happening there. We have a lot of projects on the southwest side of Main Street where they wanted to see what we were going to do with the back of the buildings before they start putting all the money into the back side of their buildings, make sure it all lines up and we're not doing a hodgepodge worth of work. But I see a lot of happening with at least the southwest side of uppers in Main Street here coming pretty soon. Now the downside is we need to find operators for the buildings on the not the downside, but the first floor of those, and then he's getting ready to build those out for whatever operator wants to go in there. Shop centers is in the middle of using his grant, and then when those get done, I think he'll have 8 apartments there. The Lafayette apartments, and I even believe One West, those are full. They're redoing One East where the deli is. That should be a nice place. And so the fact of the matter is the uppers are empty, but the problem is the uppers aren't livable at this point, and we're in the process of getting all those done. Um, Shouldn't we use the county building? The problem there is I absolutely love that idea. I think you're talking about the old county building. The problem is that requires county allowing that. And talking with a couple of the county supervisors, that is not as empty as it looks. I believe the DA takes up an entire floor. There is guests from the federal government, if I'm allowed to say that, that come in and use it time to time for on their way through town, stuff like that. It is not empty. They have their own storage needs and all that stuff. I would love to procure that building and make that the new village building. It's just not happening. The county has their own real estate issues that they have to deal with. I floated it, love it. It's a great idea. Not going to happen unless the county says, "Village, do you want this building?" Um, why mixed use? Wouldn't we entice some professionals that could be better use of those upper floors? Uh, Mixed use is what the developer wants to do. So I'm going to actually say why. I'm going to give a little bit of backstory when I answer this question. CDM is the developer that wanted to do this project. They came into town with a decent portfolio of successful DRI projects in other municipalities around the Finger Lakes in Monroe County and stuff like that. They said, "Hey, you guys won the DRI. Is there anything you guys wanted to see done that didn't get submitted? Maybe we can submit it." So we took them over to the open lot by the rec center. They were interested in that if they could buy the houses next to it. Didn't have a lot of time though. They only had a couple weeks to figure all that stuff out, so that went sideways. Took them to another downtown building where the first floor tenant is the owner of the whole building, and they had a new real estate person in their I guess we'll call it corporate structure, and he wasn't ready to do all this, make all these decisions in about 2 weeks. So they were on their way out the door and said, "Hey, guys, keep our number if you want to." And then I saw the newspaper article about Newark's sort of public-private partnership with their rec center, where a private entity was able to come in and get the DRI funding and do this whole thing, make some rent on the portions of the building that the municipality was not using, and the municipality rented their piece of it. So we said, "Hey, this building's in a bad way. What do you guys got?" In very, very short time, they did all the programming for what we need, and then added the 2 floors on top for what they believe is, they've even did the market studies and stuff like that on the housing. It will all be market rate. That's the only way this whole thing works for them after the money they'd be putting in, and and they look pretty nice. I don't know if you guys clicked on the Finger Lakes Times article. I believe the rendering was in there. I sent that to them. If you don't, maybe we'll hang it up in the village foyer there thing when you come in to pay your water bill. You guys can take a look at it. But the mix, if someone wanted to come in and take over a couple units for whatever their business was, I'm sure they would build it out that way while they were building the building. We can put you in touch with CDM. What a waste! Nothing for the kids, nothing revitalized, just another government building. So this is a part of obviously the DRI. The DRI has a lot of public realm improvements in it. The southwest side of Main Street is supposed to be sort of a more of a public gathering area. There's also a serious, uh, it was more than I originally intentioned, additions to the rec center going in there. A whole new building, kitchens, play sets, basketball hoops, all those sorts of things are in there. Burns Way, lots of updates to over by the canal as far as the DRI goes. Canal grants take over the rest of it. Um, and then there was a lot of questions. I know it's old. Why would be another one? Why would we be interested in renting it and not doing it for something else? It is old. There was a lot of stuff about the historical registry on here and stuff like that. Uh, I don't know all of those answers. I know there's two different versions of historical registry, and ones you can do stuff with, ones you can't. You have ones that are not, I forget the word, they don't contribute, but they're on the historical record. You can kind of do whatever you want with them and stuff like that. I think what it comes to is if we talk to the state historical preservation board, this is not a building that actually visually fits in with historic downtown or anything like that. In my opinion, it's ugly as sin. So I'm not too worried about us getting through that red tape. If everyone wants to see this cinder block building stay because it's historical, let me know that. I think you're crazy, but we can do that. If it's what the people want, it would need to have the entire concrete first floor removed and replaced. If you guys were talking about it being a car dealership, that was why it made a good police station. We could drive the cars in there like a Sally Port. However, the salt and everything over the years has rotted holes right in that floor. Um, sort of the biggest problem we have with this building. And in order to remove that whole concrete floor requires adding all sorts of wall supports and stuff like that to keep the whole building from crumbling in on itself. So if it being on the historical registry, it may be. I'm sure there's red tape you go through to get around that. I know it's been there a long time. I know it was a car dealership, um, but it's fact of the matter. It's painted cinder block. I don't know why we would want to keep that around. Why the $1 million? I sort of adjusted that earlier. I've gotten quotes significantly lower. There are unknown issues or preparations that happen to with this stuff that these guys who do this for a living would like to request a higher number in a way to make sure that it's all covered and then see what they can get out of it. And environmental concerns and stuff like that, it is old. There's a question here. They just received a $10 million grant. How much do they think they're just going to hand out? So this is actually something I was going to get to in the budget video that's going to be coming out next. Yes, the Restore New York grant, New York Main Street, all those other grants that are out there, the small business, those are these compounding on each other is actually something the state does often. When they see that you guys are making progress and that you've won things based on this other committee's opinion that you have a good plan, they actually look at that as a good thing. Hey, let's get our money in there to really make our money worth more because they're doing so much at the same time. Throwing $1 million at a dying village for whatever reason that isn't doing anything else, they don't want to do that. They want to throw their $1 million at a growing village. But the fact of the matter is, we get Restore New York every once in a while. It's not. I believe One West Main Street was used for it. The shop center was used for it. The shop center's finishing theirs up. One West Main Street did do theirs. The uppers are done there, I believe, and the lower level is done there. So that is they do this. It is and but what I wanted to say is I've done the back of the napkin math. I've used the median household income. I've used a normal income tax, state income tax average, and I've also taken that we're 1/6 of the overall population of the county. And when you do that and you take $32 million a year in sales tax goes to the state, we're 1/5 of that. Let's say right there would be $6 million, right? And then when you take the median household income and multiply that by the average uh, me, sales or income tax that the state collects rips 12 to 16 million dollars out of the village every year. The state rips that money out of the village every year and then makes us beg for it back. Now you can believe that the state is smarter than us and they know how to send it, or they know how to spend it better than we do. So we have to have a good plan to go to them to ask for it back. But I think it's fiduciarily responsible and it's derelict of duty to not try to get as much of that $16 million back every year as we can. Now the state's going to say state troopers, National Guard, DOT, some of the benefits that people receive for SNAP benefits or housing help and all that stuff is where a lot of that money goes. But as long as I can just quickly say they've extracted $16 million out of the village, I'm going to do everything I can to get the $16 million back. The problem here is that nearly every grant that can be applied for, the village has to apply for on behalf of the person that wants it. It even goes down to the sanitary sewer laterals, right? If you have a house with something and you're below a median income and you have a sanitary sewer lateral, we have to apply for you to get it, and that's how all that stuff works. So um, this is another one where we're applying for the grant on behalf of the developer, and then when we get it and they see that the village is moving in the right direction. The problem is those grants are given out in a regional basis, and the Finger Lakes only has $5 million total, and about 22 projects were submitted. So we'll have to see if we get that, and then we'll have to go back to the drawing board. Is how do we pay for the demolition? Because that's the one part of their back of the napkin math on everybody paying a certain amount of rent versus the cost of this project that makes it work. Um, so I didn't really go through every single property that we investigated. I did go through all the building new options that we went through, retrofitting existing places. They're really, other than maybe because of the Sallyport needs, other than maybe a gas station, they come with contamination problems and all that stuff. It's been really difficult to find one. We looked at old county buildings. There's county buildings over on Third River Drive. Uh, they come with their own set of needing a new roof, foundations crack, all those sorts of things that come back and bite us in the butt if we were to purchase things like that. So we have thought of all these things. I encourage you guys to please come to meetings. I ramble on like I do in this video on all of these things that we've investigated. Once we found out the building was structurally in a bad way and it was going to cost millions of dollars to fix it, we started looking at every avenue we could. And I'm fine with the village office working out of a storefront. It's the police that we got to relocate. And if for whatever reason in May this doesn't win the DRI, and in February, whatever, it doesn't win the Restore New York, we're still open to other ideas about what we do here. And if it does win, I'm also open to the ideas of the stopgap measures that the police could take while we're tearing down the building and building up new. The guys that have done this have actually done this exact scenario before, CDM, the developer, and they had, I want to say it was a rich suburb in Rochester, they had their police working out of some temporary housing right on site in the back parking lot or something like that. So uh, that is the gist of the whole village hall. If you have more questions, please come in and see us in the office. I'm usually there until 9:30 in the morning. I get in awfully morning. Then I have my regular 9 to 5. But if you wanted to set up a meeting, I can usually go into work early and cut out at 3:30, so I can do late afternoon as well. And then we'll probably have more time to speak on that. But I promise you, of all the people who have asked questions about this, we've thought about as many angles as you could possibly think about. This wasn't a seat of the pants, let's spend money that we don't have type of thing. This is actually the one way that we've found that could potentially not raise a dime in taxes. So that is my spiel on the village hall. I know as alerts come out that we applied for this grant or this grant, everything gets confusing. But the article in the Finger Lakes Times on the demolition grant was just for that, the demolition. The overall $14 million project is a private project submitted in the DRI, and this is the piece they would like to pay for to keep the rents low. The fact of the matter is, if they don't win this one, the rents just go up to cover that cost over a period of time, and that's how it works. Go ahead and look up CDM, Construction Design Management. I forget where they're out of. I want to say west of us, um, but they have a decent portfolio, and they've worked with other municipalities in the Finger Lakes on their DRI projects. When something that the village wanted to see didn't get selected or put in, they were able to come in, swoop in, and put in that project for them. So um, let me know if you have any questions. Go ahead and I don't know if I'm going to get this into the Facebook or just put the link and you can put the questions underneath this video on YouTube. Thank you.